One of the things I see over and over with clients is how anxiety can stack up without them even realizing it. So sometimes people come to me and they're like, I don't understand why I'm so anxious. What is going on? Like, nothing has happened. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but why don't you tell me a little bit about what's been going on in the last week? And then people will list thing after thing after thing that's been stressful, that's been tense, that's been scary, that they've had anxiety about. Legitimate things that have been going on in their life that are stressful or that have created fear or anxiety, and they just haven't even really noticed. And these things have stacked up, they've added up, and the person hasn't been aware of it. So then all of a sudden, it feels like all of a sudden they're experiencing all this anxiety and they don't understand why, and it feels like a mystery. So one of the key hacks for anxiety is to notice how it is piling up, to be taking an inventory of the things that are going on in your life during the week, the things that you've been feeling anxious about, the things you've been scared about, the stressful things that have happened, those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on here? And to take inventory of them and see how, if all these things have happened, if all these things you've been thinking and feeling and having thoughts and feelings about and stress over have happened, of course you're anxious. Your anxiety makes sense, and it especially makes sense because you haven't even recognized that these things are going on. A lot of times when my clients get to this point, they're anxious because they're anxious. They're anxious because they're anxious and they don't know why. So not only has all this stuff built up during the week, but now they're anxious because they don't understand why they're so anxious. So anxiety builds in that way too. So if you're keeping track of anxiety, if you're kind of like noting things and checking them off, taking inventory, noticing what's making you anxious, then you're not adding that additional layer of being anxious about why you're anxious, or wondering why you're so anxious, or feeling like anxiety is so mysterious, there's nothing going on, why do I feel like this? We can just take that layer off if you are keeping track during the week, if you're noting like, whoa, okay, that was really stressful, that was really weird. I really had a moment with that. This really intense thing happened at work. I had to have this conversation that I didn't feel great about. If you're noting all those things, then you know what's going on. You know why you've been anxious, and those things don't stack up in the background and make you feel terrible. This is one of the key things that I help people with when I'm working with them to start to manage and decrease anxiety in their life. Noticing how things are stacking up and taking inventory of them and looking and saying, yes, okay, if I've had all these moments, if I've had all these things, it makes sense that I would be anxious. It makes sense that I would have some feelings about that. And then we can move on to managing that anxiety, but recognizing that it makes sense, understanding it, takes a whole layer off of it. So go ahead and put this into practice. You can have either a formal or just a sort of informal, casual time where you're checking in with yourself and you're saying, whoa, what's been going on? Okay, yeah, that, oh yeah, and that, and that, and that. You can sit down and do it once a day and like at night. You can do it at the end of the week and kind of do it in the moment as you're noticing that you're having feelings, but commit to start checking in with yourself and start kind of taking this inventory and looking at this list of things that have been going on that have been making you feel anxious. This is going to start to shift and change your anxiety and decrease it right away.